Angel Reese's new teammates cooked her. Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream, they had their introductory press conference yesterday when a reporter asked a question, hey, what were some of your fond memories playing against Angel Reese? What were some things that you took away playing against the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese? Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray, they had the perfect opportunity to just kiss some ass. Oh, it's so hard. It's so tough. It's so physical. The rebounding, the aggression. But y'all were just telling me that they recruited her over here.
Angel Reese just got traded to the Atlanta Dream, and what was supposed to be a fresh start instantly turned into chaos at her very first press conference. Instead of hype and support, she got brutally honest comments from her own teammates that completely shifted the tone of the room. In just minutes, Angel Reese went from being introduced to being publicly exposed.
Angel's annoying as hell.
That press conference was supposed to be easy. Soft questions, big smiles, everyone saying the right things. Build chemistry, keep it positive, move on. That's how this usually works. But the second that question came out, what was it like playing against Angel Reese? You could almost feel what was coming next. And then it hits.
The rebounding, the aggression, the finishing around the rim at an all-time high clip. It's overwhelming sometimes as an opposing player. I'm glad she's on our team. But what Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray did instead, oh, that Chicago Sky team, that Angel Reese team, oh, they were trash.
I think I got about 30. No hesitation, no filter, and no attempt to dress it up. Just straight numbers. And not even in a bragging way, which somehow made it worse. It sounded casual, like it wasn't even a big deal, like dropping 30 was just part of the routine when facing her team. And that's the moment where everything shifts. Because that's not how you talk about a star you're excited to play with. That's how you talk about a matchup you used to enjoy. That's how you talk about a team you circled on the calendar because you knew you were about to have a good night. And it didn't stop there.
Alicia Gray has consistently been putting up some solid numbers against the Chicago Sky. I think her worst game was 15 points. But Alicia Gray consistently against the Chicago Sky, putting in work. So, nothing about the Chicago Sky nor Angel Reese really put any type of fear in their heart.
Alicia Gray jumps in, basically saying she loved playing against Chicago because those were her best games. Her best games. Not tough battles, not hard-fought wins. No, those were the nights where everything clicked. That's when you know it's not just one player having a moment, it's a pattern. And here's where it gets interesting. The numbers actually back them up.
That team was bad. In fact, if I remember correctly, I had some of my best games against the Chicago Sky last year. Ryan Howard, last year against the Chicago Sky, dropped 36 one time and dropped 22 another.
Ryan Howard dropped 36 in one game against Chicago, dropped 22 in another. Alicia Gray, consistently putting up 15 or more like it was nothing. So when they talk like that, it's not random, it's not emotional. It's based on what actually happened on the court.
Question actually for everyone but Angel. How would you guys describe, no offense, how would you guys describe what it was like playing against her the last 2 years?
Now this is the setup right here. How would you guys describe playing against her the last couple of years?
So now you've got a situation where Angel Reese is being introduced as this big addition, while the players next to her are casually reminding everyone how comfortable they were playing against her team. That's tough, because if you're really that dominant, if you're really that much of a problem, opponents don't talk like that. They don't sound relaxed. They don't laugh through their answers. There's usually a different tone, a little hesitation, a little respect. Something that says, yeah, she made life difficult. But that wasn't the vibe here.
It's really tough. Not only can she beat you off the dribble, but she pulls up from the logo. So I always have to be ready, and I always have to be ready on the defensive end. As soon as she crosses half court, she's a threat. Her passes, so it's not just her scoring ability, it's her passing ability too that I need to worry about. As soon as I think that I have an angle cut off or a lane cut off, nope, Caitlin Clark, she manages to get that pass through. I've never seen anything like it before.
Instead, the closest thing to a compliment was calling her annoying to play against. And even that didn't land the way it was probably supposed to. Because annoying isn't the same as unstoppable. It's not even close. Annoying is what you call someone who tries hard. Unstoppable is what you call someone you can't deal with. There's a big difference.
Anytime Angel's been on the other side of the court, I think I got about 30.
Look at it.
And you could see it on Angel Reese's face. That slight pause, that moment where the smile doesn't quite match the situation. Because she was expecting the usual script. Everyone does. But instead, she got honesty. Real, unfiltered, slightly uncomfortable honesty. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. Chicago trades her away after missing the playoffs 2 straight seasons. They get 2 first-round picks and future flexibility. That's not exactly the kind of move you make when you're building around someone long-term. That's a reset. That's a team saying, we need to change direction.
She wasn't expecting it. She was not expecting that. She was ready for it. She was ready for the ass kissing. Damn, Ryan Howard, you're cold-blooded, Ryan Howard. You are cold-blooded.
Atlanta brings her in, and instead of immediate praise, the first thing you hear is how well they played against her before she got there. That's not exactly a confidence boost.
Angel Reese, Brick Center. We've got a Brick Center sighting. The season hadn't even started yet. And Angel Reese is introduced in a press conference with her new teammates, talking about the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese and playing against them.
So now the question isn't just about the trade. It's about perception. Because perception inside the locker room matters more than anything being said outside of it. And right now, it doesn't sound like they were losing sleep over her. That doesn't mean she can't change that. It just means she hasn't yet.
As we've all seen the Chicago Sky, they reloaded. Yeah, they ain't rebuilding. They reloaded. All right, and brought in some real, honest-to-God talent.
And that's the part nobody really wants to say out loud. And then comes the moment. The line that completely flips the energy in the room. Ryan Howard just sits there, calm, relaxed, no hesitation, and says, I think I got about 30. That's it. No build-up, no soft landing, just straight to the point.
The Atlanta Dream teammates basically said, we were able to do anything we wanted at absolute will.
Now here's the thing. If she said that with some attitude, maybe you brush it off as trash talk. But she didn't. That's what makes it worse. It sounded casual, like she was remembering what she had for breakfast. Like dropping 30 wasn't even worth emphasizing. And that's where the damage really hits. Because what she's actually saying is simple, you didn't stop me. Even worse, you weren't a factor. And in a setting where you're supposed to hype your new teammate, that lands differently. That's not praise. That's film study in public. You could almost feel the air shift. Angel Reese wasn't ready for that. You can see it in the reaction. Because this wasn't supposed to go like this. Not here, not on day one.
I texted Angel, and I was like, I ain't gonna lie, last year, I love playing against Chicago because I had my best game.
But before you even get time to process that, Alicia Gray jumps in and takes it a step further.
We became Jedis on the court against the Chicago Sky. We just thought about cooking their ass. Shit started roasting on the court.
Now she's talking about how much she loved playing against Chicago. Loved it. Not tolerated it. Not survived it. Loved it. Why? Because those were her best games. Her best games. That's not just a comment. That's a pattern being exposed in real time. And once you hear that, you can't unhear it. Because now, it's not about one player having a good night. It's about multiple players consistently performing at a high level against the same team. That's when it stops being coincidence and starts looking like comfort. At that point, you're not competing. You're stat padding.
This was a certain somebody else, you'd be like, man, with her on the court, they're always a threat. Always a threat. I never feel comfortable going up against that team because they're always a threat, especially with that person on the court. And if she's not getting off offensively, she's making sure other people around her are getting off. Man, it was a pain in the ass playing against that team.
And yeah, that sounds harsh, but listen to the way it's being said. Nobody sounds stressed. Nobody sounds like they were dealing with a defensive nightmare. It sounds like they were getting into rhythm, finding their spots. doing what they do best. That's not what you expect when you're talking about a player who's supposed to dominate on that end. So now the conversation shifts again, because then comes the compliment, the one that's supposed to smooth things over. Angel is annoying as hell to play against.
Playing against Angel, I always be like, dang, like, how's your girl on them rebounds? And then, like, when we be at the free throw line, like, I'll be like, I'm not even, like, going in, like, you got 3 rebounds, because she's just so, like, strong. So it's just like, me being a guard, I'm not for the battle with a post for a rebound.
Now normally, that sounds like respect, right? That's usually code for, she competes hard, she brings energy, she doesn't quit. But listen closely. That's not the same as saying she's unstoppable. It's not the same as saying she takes over games. It's not even close. Annoying is what you say when someone is persistent. Unstoppable is what you say when you can't do anything about them. Big difference.
Anytime Angel's been on the other side of the court, I think I've had about 30.
And notice what's missing. Nobody mentioned fear. Nobody talked about having to change their entire game plan because of her. Nobody said she was dominant. It was all surface level. Energy, effort, and competitiveness. These all are good things, but not the things you say about a player who's supposed to be a serious problem. So what you're really hearing is tolerance. And that's when the comparison starts to hit harder. Because when players talk about someone like Caitlin Clark, the tone changes completely. Suddenly, it's serious. It's detailed. It's almost stressful. You hear things like, "You've got to pick her up as soon as she crosses half court," or "The entire defense has to shift because of her passing." That's respect. That's impact. That's a player who forces adjustments. Nobody in that room sounded like they were adjusting for Angel Reese. And that's the gap. That's the difference between hype and reality. One player bends the game around her.
I'm playing defense. Oh, damn. Maybe she would get by me and I'd be like, don't worry, it's going to be a bloopy. Moving on. Shoot. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Angel taking mental notes. She's going to burn that franchise to the ground.
And if you think this is just talk, the numbers don't help her case either. Rhyne Howard dropped 36 against Chicago in one game, dropped 22 in another. Alicia Gray, consistently scoring 15 or more like it's just another day at the office. That's not random, that's not luck, that's repeated success. So when they speak on it, they're not reaching, they're remembering. And that's what makes this uncomfortable, because this isn't personal. It just sounds personal because of where and when it was said. But the reality is, they're describing what actually happened on the court. And when the numbers match the tone, it's hard to argue against it.
What's so funny is no one watched the games they're talking about. Yikes. Yikes. How do you reduce the opposing team to just playing against Angel? They hiding hate behind soft giggles and fake smiles. So much for Southern hospitality.
So now you're left with a simple question. If the rebounding numbers look good, but opponents are still putting up big scoring nights, what's the real impact? Because rebounds are important, no doubt, but they don't stop points from going on the board. And right now, that's the part nobody is praising.
On that squad is absurd. It really is. They could have panned the camera in on Angel, and she'd have been like, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." She got cooked. Absolutely cooked.
So when people say this felt like a roast, it's not because anyone was yelling or being disrespectful. It's because everything was said so calmly, so casually, that it felt real. Too real. They didn't come at her. They just told you exactly how those games went.
Talk that ish. We just picked up some heat. They were actually cooking her guards indirectly. She wasn't guarding Ryan, someone else was. Was she on the team? Was she offering help side defense? Was she rotating? All right then.
Angel Reese's reaction in that moment said more than any quote in the press conference. She didn't say much, but you could see it in her face. There was a clear shift when the answers started coming in. At first, it looked like she expected the usual tone, some respect, some praise, maybe even a bit of hype about how tough she is to guard. That's normally how these introductions go when a new player joins a team. But what she got instead was something very different.
So like strong. So it's just like me being a guard, I'm not finna battle with a post for a rebound. So, I mean, it's very competitive and fun, but I can say I'm glad she's on our side.
You could notice the change in her expression as the comments continued. It was subtle, but it was there. A short pause after I got about 30 lines, a slight delay in her reaction, and a smile that didn't fully match the moment. That kind of reaction usually tells you everything. It wasn't discomfort in a dramatic way, but more like a realization. The expectation and reality were not matching up in real time.
Just because you rebound your own misses at a higher rate doesn't mean she's a defensive stopper. Who the F said she was a defensive stopper?
It felt like one of those moments where a player understands very quickly that the narrative around them inside the league is not always the same as the one outside it. From the outside, she is often talked about as a big name and a high-impact presence. But in that room, the conversation was more grounded. It was based on actual matchups, not reputation. That difference is what made her reaction stand out. Once the clip started circulating, social media picked it up immediately. The reactions split in different directions. Some people said the comments were disrespectful, while others argued that it was just honest analysis from players who had actually competed against her. A few even said, they low-key cooked Chicago, while others pushed back and said the focus was being taken too personally. It quickly turned into a debate about whether this was hate or just reality being spoken out loud.
This is why we actually need stud bros. I'm assuming that's Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. They kind of humble these hoes. Damn. The slow ones. Shit.
The interesting part is how fast the narrative shifted online. One moment it was about a fresh start in Atlanta, and the next it became a discussion about how Angel Reese is perceived in the league. People started breaking down every comment, every stat, and every past performance. It stopped being just a press conference and turned into a wider conversation about expectations versus impact.
This is why we actually need stud bros. I'm assuming that's Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. They kind of humble these hoes. Damn. The slow ones. Shit. They low-key cooked Chicago, not Angel. They cooked her fam.
That is where the bigger questions started forming. Angel Reese has strong visibility, strong branding, and a lot of attention around her game. But when you look at how opponents talk about playing against her, the tone is not always what you would expect for a dominant defensive force. There is respect for her effort and energy, but not the kind of fear or urgency that usually comes with top-tier defensive players. This is also where the locker room context becomes important. Atlanta is not a team where respect is automatically given based on reputation. Players are expected to earn their place through performance, not past hype. That means comments like these are not necessarily attacks. They can also be interpreted as a kind of message about standards. In simple terms, it is a reminder that nothing is guaranteed and everything has to be proven again in a new environment.
They low-key cooked Chicago, not Angel. They cooked her fam. Damn. Why they cooking my queen? Exactly what she needed.
For Angel Reese, that makes this moment a test of adjustment. The transition to a new team always comes with pressure, but this situation adds another layer because the conversation around her is already divided. Some see her as a rising star, while others question how much her impact translates beyond rebounds and energy plays. At this point, the situation is no longer just about a trade or a press conference. It has turned into a question of perception inside the league. Whether this was disrespect or honesty depends on how you interpret it. But either way, the message coming through is clear. She is not being blindly praised in her new environment. She is being evaluated. And that might be the most important part of all.